Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let the roll call reflect that everyone is present with the exception of Mr. Peterson. Moving on to 4.0, student representative information.
Last week our semester ended, so now today we started with all new classes. A lot of kids had the same classes, but now we're switching over, and everything went really well. Snow Week is next week, so we will have a bunch of activities going on. We just picked our royal court, so we'll have our princesses and everything all ready to go. We had our blood drive last Thursday. The snow was a lot to handle last week, so we moved it, we got it done, and that went really smoothly. And the girls' hockey team went to Cloquet today. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
Right, moving on to 5.0, additions, agenda additions and deletions.
Two things I'd like the board to consider, and I don't try not to do agenda additions, but looking at purchase of baseball uniforms being 12.11 and weight room 12.12, and we can certainly discuss parts or wholes of the weight room. I mean, it doesn't have to be the whole thing, but if you want to get the ball rolling. If you don't and you want more information, I certainly understand that and can come back with something, but those would be my two recommendations.
12.12 was the weight room, you said? My decision on whether or not we add those, or?
Well, the board can take, I mean, it's open for
Discussion?
They have to vote on if they accept the agenda or not. So.
Okay.
Well, that's
Any
final,
thoughts?
so you gotta wait.
Okay.
I mean, that's my recommendation for
Okay.
agenda additions. If you don't want them, if you want to wait till a later date, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay. 6.0, visitor input. I had 2 people sign up, Lizika.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Lizika. I am the Library Media Specialist and Tech Integration Person on the Gilbert campus. Chairman Lotiger, Superintendent Carey, and board members, I'd like to thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak to you regarding placing paras in charge of the high school and Franklin media centers, rather than posting for and hiring a licensed school library media specialist. It's a commonly held misconception that all a school librarian does is sit at a desk and check books in and out all day. And from that perspective, the hiring of a para rather than a licensed media specialist might appear to be a very cost-effective measure. But just as is certainly the case for any one of us in this room today, there's much more to being a school librarian than what might be visible on the surface. If we take the new Para B job description that the board is considering this evening as a way to frame the conversation, Section 4, letter A, says that the para will support the use of print and electronic media collections, check materials in and out, manage overdue materials, maintain and inventory the collection, and shelve new materials. That's just letter A. To me, with my teaching license, library media degree, and years of teaching and library experience, these aren't daunting tasks. But to a new para with no training, experience, or background in library science, these daily life of any library tasks would be virtually impossible. If we break those down a little, there's a lot of assumptions behind each one of those tasks. The first one, support the use of print and electronic media collections, assumes a working knowledge of the print and electronic media collections. What materials are available? Where are they? How are they organized? And what particular ones are appropriate for the student or staff member who's asking? In other words, what's appropriate for a first grade student versus a fourth grade student at the Franklin? What's appropriate for a ninth grade student versus a senior at the high school? These are things that a school librarian with a required teaching license understands. An untrained para, despite all good intentions and a desire to do well, wouldn't know that. The second one, checking materials in and out, assumes a working knowledge of and login access to the library circulation software. In order to check books in and out to students, the para would need account access to the Arrowhead Library System's collection management software, Horizon. Because the information contained in the Horizon database falls under data privacy protection, untrained people aren't given login access. Confidentiality rules apply to what patrons borrow from the library, their home address and phone number information, any fees, charges, or blocks that might be on their accounts, etc. The Arrowhead Library System and our school libraries, as members of that system, have a duty to make sure that the data in that system is secure in the same way that we make sure the data held in our PowerSchool database is secure. Part of that security management is making sure that the people who are given login access are trained and familiar not only with the software, but also with the importance of data privacy. It goes on, just letter A, remember, goes on to say manages overdue materials, maintains and inventories the collection, and shelves new materials. For the sake of brevity, we'll kind of try to take these together and hit the high points. Managing overdue materials, again, assumes knowledge of and access to the circulation software. It assumes you know how to generate an overdue list with that software, sort it by grade level, and how it's appropriate to distribute that, because remember, that is data that's covered under data privacy. Maintaining and inventorying a collection assumes a knowledge of how to do varying degrees of book repair, how to remove an item from the collection if it's lost or damaged, without inadvertently also removing that item from every other member library's collection in the database, because you can do that quite easily if you're not paying attention. You need the technical know-how of completing the inventory scanning process. Then you need to know how to run subsequent inventory reports and reconcile errors. Shelving new materials again assumes a knowledge of the various subsets of the library collection, how new items can be held separately for a while for promotional purposes, and where each type of material is housed, and how the items in that particular subset are organized. The job description goes on to include a number of other duties and responsibilities, and there's a lot more that we could discuss around what's needed to effectively manage the daily life of a library media center. We haven't even touched on how the books get there in the first place and all of the steps it takes to get a book from a vendor somewhere into the school library and then processed into the collection. But you get the idea. There's a reason why there are degree programs in school library media, or in being a school librarian, to use the better known term. To do the job and provide the services you've listed in the Para B job description requires an entire body of knowledge that someone without the education, background, or training could reasonably be expected to do with any kind of success. For the benefit of the students and staff here at Evelyn Gilbert, I hope the board will reconsider the decision to hire paras rather than a licensed school librarian. Maintaining these professional positions is a major plus for our district. It's an indication that the board recognizes the importance of supporting strong library programs in the development of literate, future-ready citizens. With that in mind, I did bring some information that you might like to review and consider as you begin the annual budgeting process and make programming decisions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. So you mentioned the circulation software Horizon. That's something that we can get access to, or do they have to have a certificate of training prior to get access to that circulation software?
We have training. Mrs. Arrow, who just retired, and myself, we have training. We have taken training over at the Arrowhead Library System.
Mm-hmm. So if we went with this Para B, they would have the ability to receive that training to then be able to access?
Yes.
Okay. But your big concern, though, is that the whole body of knowledge that is gained over a 4-year degree.
And the clinical experience.
And the clinical experience.
A school librarian is required to have a teaching degree and a degree in school library science.
Okay. Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
This
Okay.
actually does not compare to a regular school librarian then, this job description? You compare this job description to a
Well,
regular librarian's
The
job
board is
description?
also considering a new school library media specialist job description, and that has all of its own duties as well, and those tasks will also still need to be done, and they're not covered with the Paraby job description. So, yes, I do have a concern that there is still work that needs to be done under that licensed position that there will be nobody there to do.
Thank you, Lee.
You're welcome.
And Janine Bowman also signed up.
Good evening. I'm Janine Bauman. I'm one of the teachers here at the school. Chairman Lotiger, Superintendent Carey, school board members, thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. We, the teachers, are here tonight regarding the teacher and library media specialist job descriptions that are on the agenda for approval at tonight's board meeting. We would like to make it clear that we are not questioning the need to have up-to-date job descriptions on file at the district or the district's right to establish what its employment needs are. As a matter of fact, we think having update job descriptions are a good thing to help foster communication and clarify the specific duties of our jobs. However, we have a few concerns that we would like to raise before these specific job descriptions are approved. Under the item Duties and Responsibilities of the Position, it reads, perform other duties as may be reasonably assigned by the administrator for effective school operation. We are wondering if the board already has examples of tasks that might be assigned to a teacher under the heading of effective school operation. We'd like some clarification on that one. Under the item Mathematical Skills, it reads, demonstrate ability to apply appropriate math skills in performing daily routines. Teachers and library media staff, who also have teaching degrees, as Lee had said, are required to pass tests developed by the state of Minnesota before they are awarded their teaching license, and these tests include math skills. By passing these tests and acquiring our Minnesota teaching licenses, we feel we have already demonstrated the necessary math skills which would be needed to teach successfully. Listing them as a separate item in the job description seems to indicate something additional might be expected. We'd like that to be looked at, please. Under the item Physical Demands, it reads to include lift at least 50 pounds. We ask that that requirement to be able to lift 50 pounds, or for a teacher to be able to lift 50 pounds, be removed, or else perhaps justified as to why that would be necessary for a teacher to need to lift 50 pounds. Bearing this in mind, we respectfully ask that you table the passing of the teacher and library media specialist job descriptions until our concerns can be met, are addressed and resolved. A number of teachers may be willing to sit with you for this process if you so choose. Thank you for your time, the Evelyn Gilbert teachers.
Thank you, Janine. Anybody
you.
have any questions from the board?
I would like to make a motion to table those job descriptions, and so we can look it over a little farther.
Once they get.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
once we get there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you, Janine. Anybody else sign up for this round? All right. Then we will move on to 7.0, approve the agenda. Did we want to, we can either make a motion to approve the agenda as presented, or we can make a motion to approve the agenda as amended with the addition of the baseball uniforms and the what?
I don't have a number for track uniforms.
Oh,
Baseball.
sorry.
You-
Baseball
that's
at this
gonna have to
time.
wait. Excuse me.
I'll make
The-
a motion for
and-
the addendum.
And then the,
Weight room.
and then it was also for the weight room.
Yep. I'll make a motion for the baseball uniforms and the weight room to be put onto tonight's agenda.
Okay. So there's a motion to approve the agenda as amended with 12.10 and 12.11 for the baseball uniforms and 12.12 to recognize the proposal for the weight room. Do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, you should probably put both of those items on the table over there in the board book, then, if they're gonna be on the agenda.
This one and this one
Yep.
will do. So motion was made by Mulner and support by Sather. 8.0, approve the treasurer's report for the second check writing in January.
Well, for the second check writing in January, we had disbursements out of the general fund. The general fund is at $265,323.27. Food service is $33,918.67. Community education was $7,096.48. Trust and agency was $2,000 even. Channel 12 was $1,975.00. OPEB was $1,519.00, bringing a total to $315,084.97. I move that the board accept the second check writing of January.
Support.
Motion by Addy, support by Gentilini. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 9.0, consent agenda. A, approve minutes of the regular meeting of Monday, January 8th, 2018. B, approve the lane change for Rebecca Diedrich. C, approve the lane change for Paula Madden. And D, approve the 2017-2018 extracurricular assignments.
Madam Chair, my only comment to that would be on D. Those are all replacements for the Dean of Students position that was lost last month. So it's not new, we're just replacing what he was doing, his extracurricular assignments. We also have to fill a track coach in for that as well.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
I will second. Motion by Sather, support by Lotiger. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 10.0, nothing was removed from the consent agenda. 11.0, personnel. 11.1, approve the resignation of Mary Anders, early childhood aide. Anything?
Just hired her a couple weeks ago, and now she's redone. I don't know, you got anything?
She just took a job in the district.
Hey, quiet.
I'd like to hear that.
She resigned.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the resignation of Mary Anders, early childhood aide?
Motion to approve the resignation.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mulner, support by Gentilini. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11.2, approve the bookkeeper appointment of Brian Mary.
Brian Meary, he, back in December, we interviewed 6 applicants. We had, our business manager was there as well as the rest of the office staff. And Mr. Meary stuck out as the leading candidate among the group, and we offered him the job. We didn't have a number to give him at the time, that's why we had that study session. So I gave him a number and he's okay with that. So we just need to get him going.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the bookkeeper appointment of Brian Mary.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Sather, support by Addy. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11.3, consider the leave of absence request.
Madam Chair, you have You have a leave of absence request before you from a member asked me. There's been lots of question as to should we, shouldn't we, that type of thing, but we did about a month ago. Minnesota does have a long-term leave of absence in their contract. You still can say yes or no, but there is provision in there, whereas there isn't one in ASME. I'm not saying that historically it's never happened in this district, but it does put us in a little bit of a conundrum when you do, because when one leaves, we can't fill that position with a permanent worker until that leave of absence is up, and so you guys will have to decide if you want to or not, but you don't have to. And from a managerial standpoint, I mean, I would recommend that you don't, but again, that's your call.
Well, we need a motion and a second, and we can have discussion regarding that. Anybody want to make a motion?
Also move that we accept the leave of absence of Mark Ellis.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Gentilini, support by Addy. Any discussion? I have some discussion because I've really been thinking about this a lot, because we have recently, approved a leave of absence. However, I also know that we're short-staffed, and we're kind of short-staffed everywhere, in my opinion. And if I were out looking for a job, I wouldn't be taking a temporary position. If there's any chance that I would not be able to stay on permanently, that would be a risk to me, and I probably wouldn't apply. So with that being said, I think it would be a difficult situation to find somebody to fill that position. And with that being said, I've looked at the contracts as well, and there is nothing that, like Mr. Carey had said, there isn't anything in the AFSCME contract regarding that. With that being said, I know that it has happened in the past. It's just, I really want to be respectful of staff and being overloaded, because that is a common theme that I keep hearing, is staff is overloaded. So that would be my concern. I mean, this decision, whichever way I do vote, it was a difficult decision. Anybody else have any input on that?
I certainly understand that you want to be respectful of everyone, but at the same time, we still got a school to run here. And it puts us in a real precarious position if you start allowing this to happen.
We've done it before,
You have done it before. Yep.
many times.
Well, couldn't we look at posting for a temporary?
That's what we would have to do. If you granted a leave of absence, we would have to post for a temporary.
Possibly contact the local unions, the retirees out there that probably wouldn't mind coming in and not on a full-time basis, but to come in
But
and just fill in.
it is full-time, but it's temporary.
But this would expire
6
in
months.
6 months. So, in 6 months, and then we could, once the 6 months is expired, and Mr. Halleck has made a decision not to return or to return, at that point, we can post for a new position.
The issue I see with is the verbiage of up to. So he or she could come back 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. So it's pretty hard sell to a temporary. We don't know how long we're going to need you, but please fill this position. If it was a definitive 6 months, it might be a little easier.
What position is this?
Plumber B.
And I would assume, I don't know if I can ask this question, but I'll ask anyways, I would assume that it would be opened up to somebody in-house to take over that position temporarily first.
It has to be posted internally first.
So if if somebody internally did choose to go into that position, it would still leave an opening from the position they're leaving.
Uh-huh.
I know this was done before, you guys mentioned. Did it end well for us? Did it help our district in any such way?
I know of one situation where the person did not return.
And that's the only one that I know of. I mean, and
It creates a lot of problems
I mean,
while it's going on. I mean, it does. Because you have internal movement. I mean, let's say somebody did take an internal, which I don't believe would happen, but it still creates an opening somewhere that's temporary. I mean, you still have to find somebody that's willing to work somewhere between a week and 6 months. Not sure which one of those it is.
I mean, I understand that, you want to be supportive of the employees but I also, we have a school that needs to operate and run and be efficient and I mean, and yeah, and the last,
I don't-
it was lingering. I mean, at what point is it costing to our school then? I mean,
And I understand. Again, I've played it over and over in my head because we did just recently approve a leave of absence. But again, in researching myself, that's an option in the contract.
As it stands with the Dean of Students, don't we have to fill in for that position too? Aren't we looking into that? Basically, we're talking.
Well, I think that will be a discussion that,
well, that was a
Later.
vacated position, he left.
That was
There's no
it's a
leave of
vacated.
Yeah, there was.
It's a
He had a
teach.
leave of absence. We granted him a 6 months, a leave of
We
We
absence.
grant him a leave of absence.
They granted him a leave of absence, but
But
that's,
then,
it's a leave of absence from his teacher position. He was in a position as a teacher on special assignment, which was appointed. So, yes, we still need to. I'll talk about it later.
we're going to have that discussion later anyway, but
Well, I mean, we can have
but
it now. I
that's
mean,
still under a different contract
Yeah.
though, where the contract allows those
Right.
pieces. This contract doesn't, it's not built into the contract either. I mean, that's the piece. So, yes, the board can make the decision, but it isn't clearly built into the contract either.
I don't know. And I have a tough time with, again, I feel like I'm contradicting myself, and I do acknowledge that. But I have a hard time, too, that it's testing out, it's testing out another position, and then if you don't like it, coming back and potentially bumping somebody.
And one thing, I'd be open to the idea of this leave of absence if there was more information from the individual, if he wishes to disclose that. If this is a hardship case,
It's hard, and I agree
right?
with you.
So
It's hard.
we don't know that bit of information, but
And I don't know if we can. I
Right.
mean, yeah,
Well, that's
I
that
agree with
individual's
you.
choice,
It's hard
yeah.
to not know.
Well, and the other thing, I suppose this is a confidential letter of resignation, or do others
No.
get it? So the other part that I have a hard time with is my reemployment shall be to the same job and within the same job classification as I currently hold. And the previous leave, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. If that, stop me if I'm saying too much, but if that person came back, they're not guaranteed to go back into the position they left.
right.
Whereas this is saying my reemployment shall be to the same job and within the same job classification as I currently hold. And to, upon reemployment, I shall be entitled to my current level of seniority and other rights and privileges. So, anybody else have anything to say about this, or should we move on to vote?
Take a
All
vote.
right.
We're voting to accept, right?
We're voting, the way it states is we're voting to accept the leave of absence request. So, do we already did the motion and the support, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the leave of absence request, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No.
No.
So,
4 to 2.
4-2. So Gentilini and Addie are yes,
Yes.
and Chad, Sather, Lotiger, and Mulner are no,
May I
to
make-
not approve the leave of absence.
May I make a motion to give that individual opportunity to disclose more information that might change and vote again?
I think once the board has made a decision, the board has made a decision.
So no matter what? All right.
So,
With what we got? Yeah, no.
okay. Motion carries?
Not carried.
Does not carry, sorry. Sorry. Moving on, 12.0 new business. 12.1 resolution of number 652, directing the administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions and reasons therefore.
This is a scary resolution every year because it makes it look like we're going to start chopping things up. But this is actually a resolution that's required to start the budgeting process. We'll start scheduling students end of January, early February, which determines FTE, which, as you all know, makes up the bulk of our budget. And we bring that before you then to see it. It doesn't mean necessarily that there's going to be a reduction, but I mean, if there are less kids, there's obviously less stuff too. So. But we don't know that right now, so this is just a resolution to allow us to start starting that process.
And it's a roll call vote.
Yep.
Okay,
So you,
Oh, you
yep, it's all you.
It's all on me. My first official clerk duty. For taking roll call for resolution number 652, resolution directing the administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions and reasons therefore. Whereas the financial condition of the school district dictates that the school board must reduce expenditures immediately, and whereas this reduction in expenditures must include discontinuance of positions and discontinuance of or curtailment of programs, and whereas a determination must be made as to which teacher contracts must be terminated and not renewed, and which teachers may be placed on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits, in effecting discontinuance of positions. Be resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 2154 as follows, that the school board hereby directs the superintendent of schools and administration to consider the discontinuance of programs or positions to effectuate economies to the school board for the discontinuance of programs, curtailment of programs, discontinuance of positions, or curtailment of positions. Going into roll call, Director Gentilini.
Don't we need to?
Do we have to do a motion?
Do we-
Yeah.
Need a motion and support, and then you can take a vote.
And then do the vote. Okay.
Do I get the motion or
You
does she?
get the motion.
I'll
You
take the
call for the motion.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
And I'll second.
Now we'll do roll call. Director Gentilini.
Yes?
Director Chad.
Yes.
Director Addy.
Yes.
Director Sather is a yes. Director Lotiger.
Yes.
Director Peterson is absent. Director Mulner.
Yes.
That is 6 yeses with 1 absent.
All right. Do I say motion carries?
Yeah.
Motion carries. 12.2, accept the fiscal year 2017 audit report.
Madam Chair, I've invited Greg back from Have at it, Greg.
Okay. Thank you, School Board, Superintendent. My name is Greg Knudsen. I work for the accounting firm of Walker, Drew and Hawley, and I think it was last month, beginning of last month, we presented preliminary findings of the audit. Since then, we have published the audit report, and I'm going to go over some of the items that are listed here that I didn't talk about earlier, and I'll just go in a quick summary form. I'm not going to really repeat what was talked about a month ago unless somebody asks some questions later. As you can see, this is the financial report and supplementary information for ISD 2154 for a year into June 30th, 2017. And there is like a 22-page summary that I had out. The excerpts are, which come from the published audit report. Turning to page 2, which highlights the opinion that we have, and this is really what is the bottom line for the audit report. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the government activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of ISD 2154 Evelyn Gilbert as of June 30th, 17, and the respective changes financial position thereof, and the budgetary comparison of for the general fund for the year that ends according with GAAP for the United States of America. And that's the highest opinion, the best opinion that a school district could have, and it's really what you're going for. So I wanted to bring that up right now so everything's presented how it should be materially stated. Moving to page 4 of the little summary, I do have them numbered in the upper right. This is a summary of the governmental funds, and you can see where it says net change of fund balances, where the general fund revenues over expenditures of $223,018, the debt service funds reduced by $7,757, and the other governmental funds increased by $40,762. And I'm basically reading, 4 lines up from the bottom on that page. So the total increase of the governmental funds are $256,043. And what makes up the other governmental funds, which is on page 5, is the food service and community service fund. And you can see the respective change there that makes up that $40,000, $18,000 increase in food service, and $21,000, just under $22,000 in the community service fund. Moving to page 6, we do have 2 fiduciary funds, one the Scholarship Trust Fund and then the OPEB Irrevocable Employee Benefit Trust Fund. And you can see that the change in that position on the trust fund, you had $4,038 more scholared out than you had interest income, giving you an ending net position of just over $100,000. And we had an increase in the change in net position for the OPEB Irrevocable Trust Fund, increased by $4,424. You see that there was a prior period adjustment that related to certain expenditures from the prior year that were reclassified back into the general fund. That had to do with severance payments that were should have been properly spent out of that fund and not the OPEB fund. I'm not going to go through the next 4 pages. Those are the ones I went over back in December, but if anybody looks at it later or has any questions, I'd be more than happy to bring that up. But that's the detail of the information I just talked about by the funds. Page 11 has the, this is the general fund. Basically, the first column is the original budget, which you budgeted to, as you can see, have the fund balance go down by $463,000. The final budget was $902,000 decrease, but the actual amount, which is the middle column, has $223,018, and variance is the difference between what was budgeted and what actually did happen. And one thing I would like to highlight here on the general fund as comparison to the prior year where I did mention before that the net change in fund balance increased by 223. In 2016, the year ended, it was 1,162,264, and the big difference on that, everything else being equal, the top line, the local property tax levies, there's a rents and royalties of a significantly higher amount in 2016 than there was in 2017, 3.6 million. It's part of that local property tax levies that came through, and it was down by 2.7, and it went down significantly from the prior year, and that's basically gravy money, and you don't really know how much you're getting until it happens, and I know that that particular portion is decreasing.
He's talking about the tax net royalties that we get.
Right, right. And you did know that, and usually you get that in, I believe it's early August
Yeah.
or for the next ensuing year.
President, Barry, from page 60 in the booklet for general fund. General fund balance, comparative balances. Compare with this statement, or is this
Page
later
16,
on?
yeah, this page 16, it says page 11 on the upper right,
Yeah,
comes from page 16 of the audit report.
60.
16.
60.
Well, 16, oh, yeah.
Page
6, yeah.
Isn't it 18, Greg?
Okay. I just look at.
18. Yeah, thank you. It comes from page 18. Yeah. And I do, because I don't like to talk about the government-wide too much, because the funds are really what you budget and what you go by, but the government-wide, which has to do with long-term debt, undepreciated capital assets, your new net pension liability, and a change in OPEB calculation. I just want to hit some of them highlights, just because the huge dollar amounts that exist. So page 12, which coincidentally ties to page 12 from the audit report, these take all the fund balance type things, and your net OPEB asset, which is about halfway down in the top part, is 120,453. The prior year it was 1.7. This had to do with an accounting change which requires you to recognize the whole liability of the net OPEB. In the past, you were allowed to amortize past cost over 30 years. Now, any OPEB plan that has a net irrevocable trust fund is required to do that this year, recognize the whole liability and the asset to get a more accurate of where you really are at year end. So that's one highlight I'd like to bring out. And if you see, like right under non-current liabilities, this includes your bonded debt, your net pension liabilities, and also any severance. The number I'm looking at here is the $22,658,160 and the $481,000. This increase significantly have to do with the net change that the state had as far as your share of the net pension liability related to PERA and TRA. So all that debt that's amortized and estimated, that's ISD 2154's portion of that, and I think this is the third year you had it, that you did have this liability to recognize. You can see that increased by about double. And there's really nothing you can do about it, but it's just a change in the actuarial and all depending on how PERA and TRA did. And because of those huge amount of changes, your net pension went from 6.4 to 2.6, and a huge amount is unrestricted, but that has to do with those huge liabilities that you're required to talk about. Page 13 in the upper right.
One question on Paul there, Greg?
Sure, no problem.
Okay. On the due from the state of Minnesota, the $653,979, is that, where's that fund coming from out of the state?
That actually comes, most of that would be your general ed aid. It's revenue that you recognize, but you basically get 90% of the money from the state as of June 30th, and the other 10% comes July and August, the rest of the year. So that's a usual thing, and it actually, a few years ago, it was more of a 2/3, 1/3, but the state's catching up a little bit with the funds. But that's what that number represents, basically your special ed and general ed aid state revenues that you have coming are recognized, but they weren't in the bank as of June 30th.
It's been a drastic reduction. I look back to 2011, or 2011, you know, and it was like $2 million.
Yeah, a lot of districts were even borrowing and taking out certificate of indebtedness for cash flow because of the state basically holding back money. Yeah, you can see it was 699,000 the year before and 653. I think that's probably normal for a district your size. Then it is based on 90%, 10%.
Student enrollment then? Is that
Right.
that's based on that?
Yeah, the general ed aid is based on that, and so there's some other calculations, but,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. So moving on to page 13, it's a little bit what I talked about before on the government-wide deposition. Your fund balance at 6/17 is $6,406,000, and I did talk about the net OPEB, that's your assets over your liabilities for your OPEB, that's $120,453, and your long-term liabilities are $23,139,000. You can see these are the big ones that basically help determine what your net position are. And on the next page shows what the that 120 I talked about in a bracket on this one means the net OPEB asset. So it's showing that you have on page 14 now, you have OPEB liability as determined by the actuarial 865,000, and your net fiduciary net position on your OPEB asset, that's your irrevocable trust fund, is 986,000, giving you an ending net OPEB asset of 120,000. And the next page, basically talking about that huge 23 million liability. Toward the bottom of the page, you see, second to last column, you see the 23,139,160. It breaks down what makes up that long-term liability. You have 1,876,000 in bonds, 19 million in net pension liability, and that's up by 12 million over what it was at the beginning of the year, and then your severance payable just under 1.5 million. So those are your long-term liabilities that make up your government-wide entries. I normally don't like to talk about it because it has nothing to do with funds, but just because of the huge dollar amount, I certainly want to bring that to your attention on what makes up those particular dollar amounts in your financial position. And the next two pages break down even further what makes up that pension liability. 17 million of it's in TRA, and that's the third column over on top on page 16 of this report. It's actually page 55 on your audit, and your PRA is 2.7 million. If you add those two up, you would get that that pension liability of 19 million, the 17 and the 2 million. Which brings us to the findings. And I'm reading these from page 18 of the handout. Segregation of duties, this is a continued one that has existed before, but the concentration of duties and responsibilities in a limited number of individuals is not desirable from an internal accounting point of view, and this is due to the limited number of personnel within the district's business office. Segregation of accounting function necessary to ensure adequate internal accounting control is not possible, and our auditor recommendation is officials and management of the district should be aware of this position, attempt to segregate duties as much as possible, and provide oversight to partially compensate for this deficiency. Going down to 217.002, lack of control over financial reporting process. As part of the audit, management requested the auditor prepare a draft of the district's financial, including the notes to the financial. Management reviews, approves, and accepts responsibilities for these. So really the only thing other than the finding is our opinion. All the other numbers are the responsibility of the school district, and because it's your numbers, not mine. So I just want to make sure that's clear. But management approved and accepted responsibilities prior to their issuance. However, management does not possess the technical expertise to comply with all the government accounting standards boards, including some of the GASB ones, 45, 68 that we talk about. So we review and go through, but you have to accept responsibility. And because of this, the potential exists that a material misstatement of the financial statements could occur and not be prevented or detected by the district's control. And in order to provide controls over the financial statement preparation services at appropriate budget, we suggest management establish effective reviews, policies, and procedures. Well, when we get to the corrective action plan on that, it'll clarify what you have. And this is the difference if you looked at other audits where in the past you have the corrective action plan right underneath the findings. The single audit, the requirement requires you to have a separate cap that's listed as a separate document, and that's actually page 20 of this particular report. Turning to page 19 to 1703, discussion and action outside of an open meeting. During an audit, it came to our attention that the district violated the open meeting law by sending a letter to the IRRB without proper discussion or approval at an open meeting. According to the statute, it requires a meeting must be open to public when required or permitted by law to transact public business in a meeting. The district did not comply with the statutes. This occurred because the district school board submitted a letter to the IRRB without having discussion and approved at an open meeting. And I do want to bring it to the attention, it was brought to my attention, this happened in 2016. So some of you were on the board at the time, some of you have been new, but it was, even as part of the audit 2016 and 17, there was other board members involved with this discussion. We recommend the district review the statutes regarding open meetings, hold open or closed meetings for appropriate applicable activity, and keep activity recorded in the district's public records. And management agrees with the finding. The district will review the statutes regarding open meetings, hold open or closed meetings for appropriate activity, and keep the activity properly recorded in the district's public records.
The way it's stated here, Greg, is that the district, now you're saying the whole board, right? Correct?
Right, it was a board thing.
It was the board, but that prior members of the board. I've never been accused of violating the open meeting law as long as I've been on the school, as a director in the school.
Sure.
But the way this is saying out, the director, that's me, correct? The way it's spelled out there in the report.
It just says the district violated, which the district did violate.
But if you approve this, are we admitting to?
Well,
I would-
the district did violate it.
But I would want it stated
We
that
did-
I did not violate that
did.
open meeting law.
Right.
No, but
Us.
we're aware of the district violating the open meeting law. I'm on the board right now. I'm aware that the district violated the open meeting law in 2016 and 2017 when this audit was done. Because they sent that IRRB letter. I mean, I don't think anything in here is pointing their finger at me, I think.
Because it says the district.
I think he's telling you as auditor that he's telling the seven of you, we noticed that happen, don't do that again.
Don't do it, be careful.
That's exactly where they are.
Yeah.
And if you have any question, you of course always contact your district, attorney for any legal amounts. And this may be a technicality, I'm not gonna go on upon it, but somebody got caught doing something they shouldn't have done.
Yeah,
So, I guess-
But personally, Bill Addy, as a board member, did not have nothing to do with that, so I did not personally violate the open meeting law.
Sure.
It had nothing to do with that open meeting law violation,
And I think
just so the
that's,
public knows.
I think that's why he stated that it was members of the board that was here in 2016. And I had asked the question on whether or not we could, state that. But it does say that the district violated, and the district did violate, so it's not specifying.
Who within
Who?
the district, but
No.
the district
Yeah.
itself violated. I mean, I
do
don't.
believe in the report and in the newspaper and everything, it's clearly stated who violated, so
Right.
there was no question.
I mean, I just feel like our work speaks for itself, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and get into technicalities of the district. Yeah, I mean, I
Like
think
I
the
said,
word
at the end of the
is
day, he's just telling you as the auditor, don't do that anymore.
It's a recommendation. Thank
Yeah.
you for highlighting that, though. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Turning to page 20 is the corrective action plan. They said normally these corrective action plans used to be right underneath the findings, but it has to be a separate representation from the ISD, and that's why it's labeled as such, and each one of them has the person responsible, the cap, and the anticipated completion date. And you can read right through them, a segregation of duties. You can see all of them, we get to put Jeff Carey as the person responsible.
Thank you.
The administration will attempt to monitor transaction and structure the duties of office personnel to help ensure as much segregation of duties as possible in the district's staffing limitation and funding constraints. And this is an ongoing type.
Let me,
Completion date is ongoing.
and Greg probably wouldn't say this, but for those of you that are new, I mean, this is something that is probably in every audit report that you've written.
Yeah, 98 to 99% of all audits have,
We're
because we audit
trying-
smaller.
By what we've been doing with the restructuring, I mean, I think we're finally trying to tackle this a little bit. And he'll probably still write it in there next year, but
You're
we're at least
definitely making significant strides
we're
to
at least trying to.
mitigate this. Okay, then the lack of control over financial reporting process. Management has determined that the cost and training involved to review or prepare the organization's financial structures exceed the benefit that result, and there's no completed date. So you're willing to basically still have us, and we sign off on financial notes that it's a non-audit service, and you designate one individual, normally it's the business manager, that they review both the financials and the notes. And to be honest, school districts, because of UFARs and the way they do the depreciation and a lot of things, do a much better job than a lot of entities as far as having information available to us to just audit it, because basically we can't audit our own work. That's the whole key. But it's still a technicality because we basically publish this information. And if you, at some point, and I think you're probably not that far from it, if you have an individual that has a technical expertise, even if they don't do it, but they can 100% approve all this stuff, and they do have the ability to basically technical expertise for all the government accounting standards, statements, and everything else. This is one area we probably could set up. It could be set up between the district that policies in place to eliminate this entry and this finding, and that's really what you'd be looking for. But it's sort of a technicality. It actually goes back to Enron, this type of things, where we cannot audit our own accounting. We have to have the district or somebody prepare everything and put this together. Some of the notes, if you go through here and for the GASBs, it's pretty involved. It's not any fun. And then getting back to the 21703, discussion action outside of an open meeting, the district will review the statutes regarding open meetings, hold open or close meetings for applicable activity, and then keep activity properly recorded in the district's public records. And the completion date on that is immediately. Which brings us to the management points, the last 2 pages of this handout. There's 6 of them, and I'll just go through them step by step. Transaction and numerous balance sheets, revenue and expense codes were posted incorrectly, and accounts are not reconciled throughout the year. This resulted in an extra audit and district time needed to reconcile and adjust these accounts. We recommend the district reconcile these accounts timely and on an ongoing basis. Number 2, bank accounts are not reconciled monthly and timely to the general ledger. Bank accounts should be reconciled monthly, and the school board should review the reconciliation at monthly meetings as a control over cash. And some of these even had to do with just your staffing and the timing as far as people in the business office resigning right during the time and just the way things went, especially these first 2. I think the whole idea is to eliminate these points, and I think hopefully with the steps that you've taken in the business office and going through with your personnel, that you'll be able to tackle them. Number 3, upon review of the district's outstanding checks at year end, we noticed numerous checks with dates over 3 years old. Unclaimed or uncashed checks held for more than 3 years or 1 year for unpaid compensation should be reported and paid or delivered to the State Commissioner of Commerce, basically as unclaimed property. We suggest the district review the statute relating to reporting abandoned property and promptly report and pay the old outstanding checks to the State Commissioner of Commerce. Number 4, it was brought to our attention that some school board members were unable to properly approve payment of invoices because some attorney bills were not presented to them. All invoices should be available to school board members to review in order for them to properly approve. If there are invoices that contain confidential information, the district should request the attorney invoice the district in a way that does not infringe on confidential information and provide enough details so the district and the school board know what they are being billed for.
We did that.
Number 5, some of the demographic information on TRA and PRA website did not match the district's records. TRA and PRA actuarials used information to help calculate their net pension liabilities. Portions of these net pension liabilities are reported in the district's financial statement. We suggest the district review and correct the TRA and PRA website information to match the district's record to ensure that the actuaries are provided with accurate information. And number 6, payroll liability accounts were not reconciled through the year. We suggest the district reconcile these accounts through the year to maintain proper controls to save time at the end of the year. So none of these I'm saying specifically 1, 2, and 6 were eventually reconciled, but there was some lead-in time and extra work both by the auditors, and I think the district contracted through ARC to help out being an interim business manager, and there was a little extra work to do that, but it should be done as a monthly ongoing basis. Any questions?
On the last paragraph there, Greg, this communication is intended solely for the information used to manage the school board, the state of Minnesota, federal or agencies and pass through the entities, and is not intended to be and should not be used by any other than these specified parties. Doesn't this become public knowledge once this audit report is completed?
Yeah, it's a management letter, it's part of the audit, but the management letter is specifically a report from the auditor to the school board, the state of Minnesota, and federal awarding agencies. So it's
just that.
What this means is just this management letter.
Yes, management. Okay.
In the past, sometimes this management letter used to be a separate document that was given to the audits, not included in there, but the State Department of Education requires that to be under the same cover. So it just refers specifically to these 2 pages.
Got it. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So if I understand correctly, we're on the road to making things right by hiring a business manager, bookkeeper, and getting more on track in our business office. With 1, 2, and I think you said 6.
Right.
Okay, so looking at number 3 and number 5, what do we need to do? I don't know if this is a question for you, Gary, or for Superintendent Carey, but for number 3 and number 5, what do we need to do to get on track with that? Are we in the process of doing that?
I'm not sure, but basically 3 is to look at the outstanding checks on your bank reconciliation and basically review anyone that's over 3 years old, or over 1 year if it's for compensation, and either, say it's just a check that's lost, you might have to reissue it. But there's a procedure, looking at that statute, what to do with unclaimed property.
Okay.
And that's a legal compliance.
That's a product of our turnover.
Okay.
So,
And number 5 has basically to do with reviewing some of the information that's on the district website. And this is basically a spin-off of GASB 68, which has to do with TRA and PRA pension liability, and requires us to review the information that is used to compile this information. So if it's materially incorrect at this district or statewide, maybe the information they have isn't accurate. So it's just basically to clean up that census data that is at the TRA. And just to make sure that the employees are here, male versus female, the age they started, this kind of information. We did talk to this with your payroll person on doing it, but this is what we're looking at. And if she has any questions, I'd recommend her giving us a call, Janelle, just to find out what needs to be done. But it's just a matter of, there's enough there that it triggered a finding. But it's such a wild estimate, I hate to say that, on this pension, that I can't say, well, it's off, you debit this and you credit this. It's not like that, but it's a matter of having accurate information statewide for your PRA and TRA, so they know they're getting good numbers from the various districts, because other auditors should be, and we are doing it for the other districts that we audit. It's a requirement, just to compare the census data to what's sitting there at the district. You wouldn't have seen this finding 2 years ago, or probably even last year, because it's basically a new requirement that we're tackling.
Okay.
It has to do with estimated net pension liability.
Anybody else have any questions?
thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
So 12.2, we need a motion to accept the fiscal year 2017 audit report.
I'll make a motion to accept the fiscal year 2017 audit report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Sather, support by Mulner. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 12.3, approve teacher job description. I would, go ahead.
Oh, I guess we have to make a motion before we can have, I would like to make a motion to approve the teacher job description. I want to open up for discussion.
Well, Madam Chair, given we had a teacher come to us today and request that we look at the physical
There.
demands.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but what we'll do is we'll get a motion, we'll get a support, and then we'll have discussion about it, and then we can,
Okay, got it.
correct?
Sorry about
Mr.
that.
Carey? Then we can decide or take a vote on whether or not to, or should we go the route of a motion? We could go a route of a motion to table it for an upcoming meeting.
That was for the Para A and Para B, wasn't it?
And the teaching,
And the
and the
teacher.
teacher
Okay,
job
all right.
description.
Was requested with the visitor
Yeah.
input.
All right.
The 50 pounds and demonstrability of mathematics skills, which is something to do with the testing when they got their teaching certificate, or
So we-
teaching license.
So just so I'm clear, we can get a motion to either table it, those items, correct? And look at them at the next meeting after a work session, or we can get a motion to approve and take a vote.
You could do it either. There's a motion on the table right now to approve the job description, at which time you could have, if there was a second, you could have a discussion on what you'd like to do with it, or if you agree or disagree, and at that time you take a vote, and if it failed, then we have to
Decide
do
from
something with
there.
it. But at least we could take out of, we could take whatever the discussion is out of, I mean, if it fails, you could take it out of the discussion to adopt, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so since there's a motion, is there a second to approve the teacher job description? No second? Okay.
Let me just remind you, so if there's, and we don't follow Robert's Rule of Order, obviously, I mean, the district hasn't adopted that, but kind of. So in order for you to have a discussion, someone would have to second it.
Okay,
And then you can vote on it, one or the
okay.
other.
All right,
If there is no second, it dies of natural causes and we don't have a discussion.
Because the alternative is not on the agenda yet. This
Right.
is. All right. Yep.
okay. So with that, there's a motion at the table to approve the teacher job description. Is there a second?
We'll second that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any discussion?
Yes, please.
All
Okay.
right,
So, in looking at that, I thought they were valid points, so I was kind of looking and comparing. So, the other duties as assigned is a pretty standard job description language in pretty much any job description you will find across the board, especially in any type of bureaucratic or any governmental school district agency like this. I mean, so I was looking at the other job descriptions too, and they're all pretty standard. They're all covered within all of those job descriptions. I mean, those are kind of, and I think because the reality is,
Things change.
speaking as a supervisor, there is no way I could cover every single part of what an employee's job is in a job description, really. I mean, a job description honestly doesn't do an employee's job justice. You try to have it be as descriptive as possible, but it really doesn't cover every piece of their job. So I think that's why I don't think it's to secretly throw any ridiculous task in there. I mean, that's, I don't, I don't think I would ever look at throwing any ridiculous task in there. And I would take, yeah, I'd be concerned if we're asking all of a sudden our teachers to start, shoveling the front sidewalks and just doing things that are just not part of their jobs. But I think it's just those pieces are because you can't cover everything in a job description. Is my take. Someone might have something else, but that's my view of it.
But you got a groundskeeper here who lifts 40 pounds irregularly
So those are pieces that I was going to talk on.
and
So
60 pounds
well,
occasionally.
before we get to the groundskeeper and all those other ones,
So, in
we
looking,
gotta stick with the
the
teacher.
mathematical skills also is, it looks like that's a standard piece. I get what that is saying too. So I don't know why that would be in there. I don't know. I don't know if that's, I'm not super familiar with job descriptions for school districts on why that is specified. I get why it would be in like maybe a bookkeeper position, where it's very clearly directed within their job. But I get what the teachers are saying, that it's part of their education that, that they need a certain level. So I don't know, but again, it looks like it's standard in other job descriptions too. And then the lift at least 50 pounds. There's usually some lifting requirements on job descriptions as well. I know as social workers, we're expected to be able to lift like 40 pounds or something I don't know when we ever would lift 40 pounds, but
it's in our job descriptions, and again, I think it's just protection, just in case. I don't know where 50 pounds came from. There's different, one was 40 pounds in here, one was, so.
75.
Yeah, I mean, so I get like the groundskeeper, was a heavier weight. One was, I think the early childhood was, was 40 pounds. So I mean, where do 50 pounds come from? Does that need to maybe be modified? So
Was it ever less
There's my
before?
discussion.
Was it ever less at one time?
It wasn't in there before. Let me address some of that.
Okay.
So the all other duties as assigned, I mean, that's been something that goes in, like you said, I mean, goes standard into most job descriptions, because covers that which we can't cover. The math one, I mean, you got any, I mean, you're the one that worked on it.
Well, we just looked at what other districts have that we're modeling these job descriptions from, and
So this is a job description put together from different schools then?
we looked at one district for sure, and then, but some of them, like if a job description wasn't very good, we would look at other ones to see that
So
kind of mesh.
it's not a direct copy of
No.
any one then, so compiled
And
to
then
maybe 3, 4 different job descriptions then?
And then as far as the lifting requirements, so that, you'll see those on most of the ones that we're updating. We haven't had that in the past, and the reason that that is coming into play now is our work comp company is kind of demanding that we have some physical requirements, because if you go out on a work comp claim and before you can return to work, you have to meet the minimum physical requirements of that job. Otherwise, you can't come back here, because if you do, then you get hurt again, then they're still paying on you.
But on the...
So they want, so where did that come from? I don't know. That's certainly up for debate, I mean, but
I mean, but on the, on the flip side of that, having somebody lift 50 pounds that's not capable could put yourself in a workman's comp position, liability position. If they're not able to lift it without, I'm just saying, 50 pounds is pretty heavy. I don't know if you carried 50 pounds for, 300 feet. It's quite heavy.
it's a case of paper.
Yeah, it's heavy. I mean, not everybody can, I'm just saying. It's quite extreme, but to squat a ream of paper, not a ream, but a box of paper from the floor, right off the floor, for somebody that might be difficult.
Could it be
But
something,
what I'm saying is that, okay, so maybe it's not 50 pounds, but there has to, our
We have to
insurance
have
company is
something.
telling
I
us
agree.
that we need some type of physical
I agree
requirements
with
to
that.
come
I
back to
think we
work.
should have something, because I do, across the board, we have a minimum standard for everything.
Yeah.
I've never seen one that does not have a minimum
Right.
lifting standard for any type of job. You could be a secretary with it, and you have a minimum lifting standard.
I mean, that
because
doesn't
there's
mean that
some
you're
type
ever
of
going to
lifting.
lift 50
No.
pounds, but I mean,
But I don't know.
but if your
if
doctor
it needs
writes
to
you a
be
note
50.
that says you can't come back to work unless, or you have
Yeah.
a 5-pound, say you had your appendix out, and you came back and you had a 5-pound lifting restriction, well, then you can't come back to work.
so it has to be a
Wow.
specified number versus saying, perform multiple tasks, light lifting, just making a statement of light lifting may be required.
On occasion.
I can ask the insurance company if they want a specific number, I guess.
Well, I guess my position on it is, these job descriptions were kind of an issue for me. I really wanted to make sure that they got done. So if it's a matter of taking another couple weeks to make sure that, they're
Well,
right,
I'm
I'm
fine with
open to
that too,
that.
but like I'm saying, what I'm saying is that there has to be some physical requirement. I mean,
Right.
we can debate what that is, but there has to be a physical requirement to work.
Well,
Maybe if we can get clarification, sorry, Bill.
yeah, I'm just saying the physical demands would be like being able to work on your feet for, standing at hours at a time. There's lots of physical demands when you're a teacher. You're not sitting in an office chair every day. You're up writing, standing, walking,
I understand.
So, I think there should, there could be a little more in there, got to be able to stand for,
Chase down children.
well, chase down, yeah.
But the counter on that is, because we looked at that, so does that mean that if you're bound to a wheelchair, that
No.
you're not able to come back to work?
Well, and technically,
Well, I mean,
though,
those are the things that you have to look at, I mean.
well, and technically, what does that lifting mean? Because that's what I was thinking
Yeah, I mean,
too.
that, yeah. But, I mean, it is a slippery slope, but like I said, it is going to be a requirement. I mean, our insurance company is demanding.
Yeah, but I think there's a way to word it, and I think it would be interesting to see how that would be.
Well,
But I do, yeah, I don't disagree with not having something on there, but I agree on making sure that it's,
I mean,
yeah, I mean, we've worked on these, and the point is to get them right and to have them really nice and solid, where we're not gonna, where then we can just do little tweaks and little updates regularly versus having to,
So
start from scratch.
should we move, just for the sake of time again, so we're not here till 9 o'clock, because we've got others to look at too. So in the interest of time, should we take a vote to approve it as presented? And if you choose not to, then you.
But if it fails, I mean, it's fine. I mean, we had a discussion, we'll bring it back next time, but.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, and our teachers, they did ask, what does this mean, perform multiple tasks? That was one of the questions. That's something we can answer, and that's what they want to know. And 50 pounds, we talk about what is 50, maybe it's not the number, but an example that they need. So then they can say, all right, yeah, we're all for this. It's a better
Well,
mutual
if it-
understanding.
Again, I think if we vote, because it sounds like everybody's kind of on the same page that we'd like to look at it a little more.
Yes.
So
If this is not
the
followed,
vote, your vote.
Vote to table it, until,
Well,
you
we
know.
already have a
motion.
motion, we already have a motion to
So-
approve it, so we need to
So it's
vote
a
on
yes
that.
or a
So
no.
if it goes down, it's tabled. I mean,
Yeah.
or it can come back next, I shouldn't say it's tabled, it can come back next time. How about that?
Okay, so so we'd be voting to approve the teacher job description. We've got a motion and a support. All those in favor of approving the job description as presented, say aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
No. All right, so motion does not pass. 12.4, approve secretary job description. We need a motion and a second and discussion.
I'll make the motion to approve the secretary job description.
I will second. So motion by Sather, second by Lotiger. Any discussion?
The 50 pound? I'm gonna come back to that now and know that it's glaring in all of my job descriptions for me.
All right, I also had, other than the 50-pound, other than the physical demands, looking at letter X and AA. Letter X says supervised students sent to the office for disciplinary reasons. I recently went into the office, and there was a ton of kids in there, and it was distracting for me for what I went into the office for. That is a concern of mine, to have the secretary supervising kids that are sent for disciplinary reasons to the office. I know in the past we've had somebody, doing detention, after-school detention, so that's one of my concerns. I don't know if it's as bad at the Evelyn campus or in the Franklin.
It varies. It's worse over there than it is. It's sometimes in the Franklin, we don't always have lunch detention, so it ends up being in the office, so there are half-hour periods where it's not great. I suppose not too bad.
But when you're trying to get something done and you've got somebody throwing erasers,
Yeah.
I think it would be very difficult to get your job done in the time frame that you have to do that.
And I think that if you have this secretary position supervising students in the office, and you had the secretary on the phone while the parent's standing in front of them talking confidential stuff, and then you got these detention kids sitting in there, just sitting in there, I don't think that's.
It's not ideal by any means.
No, but
it's
but
a
it's-
reality because of staffing at the moment.
But I just think it's might be setting yourself up for a huge liability of some sort, or some kid's going to hear something, or a parent's going to hear something, or hear half the conversation of what the secretary's talking about. You know what I'm saying? It could be.
I hear you, but I'm telling you.
I don't think approving this for her to be having to watch. I can see the greet the staff, which is good, and parents and visitors, but supervising students sent to the office for disciplinary reasons, I don't think that's the place they should be going. That's the last place they should be going, because that's like anybody who enters that school enters into that office.
Isn't an issue, sorry.
I was going to say, I have a thought on that. Maybe just change it to temporarily supervise students, because...
I don't think that would happen.
Well, I mean, when a kid goes into the office and say the principal's busy, they got to sit somewhere. They're going to be sent to the office.
I mean, then in that case, it would, do you have to put a time frame on it, within 15 minutes? Or, yeah. So what would we need to do to change that?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that finding people for different positions has been difficult in playground aides and things like that. Is there a way to double up positions so it's more beneficial to somebody that's looking for, a job that's maybe 30 hours a week or 25 hours a week?
We have at times had detention people in Gilbert. We're currently in one of those phases right now where we don't. I do have one in Franklin, but she's not. I mean, some days she says she's not coming to work, and those kids end up in the office. High school doesn't even have one. Doesn't for years.
Yeah, but sending them to the office, I don't think is a, I mean,
But
I read on with this,
But what do you want to
Superintendent
do?
Carey. I read on, let me just say something. I read on with this, and it says, access to supervise the kids. But the demands that you're asking for her is to support the staff, students, and coworkers in a confidential and cooperative manner. Okay, H, function effectively and maintain effective work habits and concentration during constant interruptions while promoting pleasant cooperative building atmosphere.
I think.
I mean, that's a,
But Bill, I think we're all in agreement that it's not ideal, so what we need to do is come up with a solution. Is there a solution
Right.
rather than,
Right.
I mean, Mr. Carey is saying it's not ideal as well. That's why I asked the question, is there a way that we could put, a playground aide and a para or something together, the two positions, to make it more appealing for somebody to apply because there's more hours and more money involved.
This is really honest. This is probably a study session.
Okay.
I mean, really, because it is a systemic issue that it's actually a crisis in some ways.
Okay,
It really
so,
is.
okay, so we can take a vote on this as
I'm
well?
not- Like I said, I mean, it's not ideal what we have going on right now, but we are severely understaffed in those areas, and it's not for a lack of trying. I mean, we've spent $1 gazillion in the newspaper trying to find somebody. Facebook ads, we spent money on. It's
But
just,
some of it's because, from my understanding, is because they're being offered a position for a 3-hour
Yeah.
time frame. And that's why I'm saying, is there a way to make it so it's a 6-hour or 5-hour?
Well, like I said, I mean, we can have that discussion. I mean, because Something has to happen differently there, I can assure you of that.
Okay, so can we set up a study session? I don't know
I-
when we do that, but set up a study session to go over some of these job descriptions that aren't passing today and to discuss
That's
that
fine.
detention? Okay,
Mike,
so
question. We're still on the discussion yet? We're still in
we're
discussion
still
yet, correct? Yeah,
we're
okay.
still in discussion.
Okay,
But,
my question is, just take, on, saying in the 12.4, W, greet in a welcoming manner, staff, students, parents, and visitors. Say I'm a supervisor, and you are giving this welcoming, here's the secretary giving this welcoming, I say, well, geez, I don't think you did that in a very good manner. Can I document that and put it into your 201 file, or your file that, and put that in as a complaint type thing?
That the
In
person
other words,
wasn't
if you
greeted
don't follow
properly or
everything in this job description that's in here, can that be used against you? I guess that's the bottom line.
well, I think,
This is how these things got sold.
Well, 'cause
Well, I
there's
think
a
my
lot of
whole-
things in here.
I think my whole
Yeah,
point
yeah.
is, my whole point is, you know, that part of the having a job description is also protecting people. So
yes.
people know what they're expected to do.
And yes, if we're not doing part of our job, that is the yes, that is what a supervisor then should be saying is, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and that is what I would expect my supervisor to come to me to say, Kelly, you are not doing this, this, and this is clearly what's identified.
It should be brought up first probably where you should be contacted and said, hey, okay, Kelly, you're not doing
Well,
that.
yes, there's proper
First.
supervisory
But not just
protocol,
taking it word for word.
but
verbatim on
that's
it.
aside from the job description. That,
And Tom, I think that's-
evaluation of a job is separate from a job description. A job description is so a worker clearly knows what their duties or responsibilities are to do their job effectively.
So I am going to call for a vote to, I think, because we did a motion, we supported, and we're, yeah. So we're looking at approving the secretary job description as presented. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Motion does not pass. Okay, 12.5, approved groundskeeper job description.
I read through, go ahead.
We need a motion and a second.
I'll move.
I'll second. Motion by Addy, second by Lotiger. Any discussion?
I read through this, and it was pretty cut and dried, seemed pretty simple. I mean,
Just,
this is
well,
like, is about as,
The only point that I would make on that is one of the things that we've talked about with the groundskeepers, we have 3 of them, is, I mean, there are times when the grass is all cut, the snow is all shoveled, and we had talked about giving them cleaning duties inside during those downtimes, which I'm not telling you that it happens every day, but there are times when, you know, they're caught up with the grass and they're caught up with the snow. So, and I don't have it in front of me, but one of those numbers, I just put that they could do custodial duties if requested, and they felt that language wasn't going to be strong enough, like it needed to be spelled out that they could be assigned custodial duties inside. So I don't know, that would be one sentence that,
It's F, I believe.
Yeah.
Provide assistance to other specialists and custodial personnel as directed.
right, and they didn't feel that that was strong enough language to allow them to come inside to clean. That it would get grieved if they did. So I don't know if we want to look at that.
Well, we can look at that one too, if we so vote that way.
I mean, to me, it means that if I have something that you want to clean inside, I mean, our foreman can direct you to come inside, but they weren't feeling that, they felt that it would be grieved if it just left it like that.
Okay. So let's take a vote to approve the groundskeeper job description
So
as,
open for discussion yet?
sure.
Do we have any equipment that requires a CDL license? You know, commercial driver's license, a bus driver's license, yeah, endorsement, yes, but a commercial driver's license, that's
It's a
pretty-
commercial license with a bus driver, with school bus driver's endorsement.
Yeah, but it's in here, a
It's not-
commercial, a CDL license, a commercial driver's license, that's like an 18-wheeler.
Right.
Now, do we have any equipment that requires that? Why would
So-
you, why
so
would
we-
it be, must be...
They need a
equipped?
commercial license with a bus driver endorsement.
They need all of our bus drivers have commercial driver's
Yeah.
licenses?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Separate, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But Tom, these ones that we're not passing today, the point is we're going to have a work study, or
Oh,
a work
right, I
session on it to
understand that.
discuss those
They have to be-
further.
They have to be
So,
fine-tuned, yeah.
okay, so 12.5 is approve the groundskeeper job description as presented. All in favor of approving as presented the groundskeeper job description, say aye. Those opposed?
No.
No. Motion does not pass. 12.6, approve the library media specialist job description. The way that this has been going, it looks like we're kind of,
You can just table it if you want. I mean, you can just
Looking
vote
at-
to table it. You can do that too.
okay, I would like to make a motion to table the library media specialist job description approval until we can talk about it further.
I'll second.
Motion by Lotiger, support by Sather. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 12.7, approve paraprofessional B job description. I will make a motion to table this job description as well for further discussion.
Second?
Motion by Lotiger, second by Gentilini. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does not pass, right?
No,
Motion
No,
does.
It
you
does.
Yeah,
voted to
motion
table
carries.
it.
Motion carries. 12.8, approve the early childhood special education paraprofessional job description. Do we have a motion or any discussion? Do you want to share anything on that, Mr. Carey?
I think these next three should be okay. I mean, because Todd did it. I mean, so it's got to be okay, right? Huh?
I would like to make a motion to approve the job description for the early childhood special education paraprofessional.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Sather, second by Chad. Any discussion?
I like the wording here with the employee should be able to lift weights up to 40 pounds. If weight is greater than 40 pounds, seek assistance from other staff for proper procedures and equipment.
See, we
That's
should have
nice.
had Todd do all these.
And I just thought 40 pounds in like a small child, I mean, it made kind of, yeah.
Okay, is there any other discussion? All in favor of approving the early childhood special education paraprofessional job description, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 12.9, approve the teacher aide job description.
Yes?
This is, well, this is somebody, this is like lunchroom aid, playground aid, that kind of thing.
Classified that way in the contract. That's usually,
Yeah.
it's really your lunchroom staff for, so,
I'll make a motion to approve the teacher aide lunchroom playground aide position.
Support.
Motion by Sather, support by Chad. Any discussion?
Similar wording to the physical demands. Yeah, I didn't see anything that I was waiting on it.
Any other discussion?
The mathematics isn't on these. this
Not on this one, it was on the prior one.
Previous one.
We don't require them to do any math.
Right.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor of approving the teacher aide job description, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 12.10, approve early childhood teacher aide job description. Do we have a motion?
This is basically a paraprofessional that is in the early childhood program, not,
Non-special ed.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to,
Approve the early
Approve.
childhood?
or discuss.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Mulner, support by Sather. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Todd was 3 for 3, man, I mean, we got table.
12.11, baseball uniform discussion.
Oh, losing my focus.
It's all right.
Been here for a long time.
7:45.
We had, I gotta gather myself here. So we had, we talked about, at the study session earlier, we've fallen behind in our uniform rotation in the last couple of years. It's been 3 years since we bought a uniform. And we need to play catch up a little bit, so I'd recommend to the board that they approve this one. We did look at a different vendor as well. I didn't provide you with that information, but it was similar in price, but this was kind of a nicer uniform, and it's about as local as we can get in International Falls, as opposed to ordering from the cities. So yeah, there's this one. We should probably do track, and we're probably going to be looking at maybe even hockey this year, just to catch up a little bit. And this will come, I mean, just so you understand, I mean, this will come from our savings account. This wasn't a budgeted item. And it is a one-time expense. I mean, I'm not asking, it's not every year we're going to spend $10,000 on baseball uniforms. So,
Okay. So are you asking for a vote?
I would ask that you approve the quote from Midwest Sportswear for new baseball uniforms for this coming season.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second?
Okay, motion by Chad, second by Gentilini. Any discussion?
Yes. Some years ago, Toyota Foundation gave $10,000 to our district for,
We still got it.
okay, is there any way we can release that money somehow to
Yeah.
maybe kind of,
Yeah, it's...
I don't know how you
it's
divvy it
meant-
up between the,
It's meant for athletics.
Yeah.
That was what the grant was written for. The initial grant, they were going to put a scoreboard in, I think they were going to put a scoreboard in the softball field down there. That was what it was initially written for. And the Toyota grant is, and they don't have it anymore, unfortunately, but at the time it was kind of unusual, and they wrote you a check for $10,000, and they allowed you to do whatever you want with it. So you weren't confined to what you wrote the grant for. So time went on, and the scoreboard never went up out there. There was a parent group that eventually did that last summer, so there are scoreboards on these fields now. So that isn't even something that we would consider at this point. So yeah, I mean, it is there.
I kind of feel like, yeah,
I mean, it's fine. Just so you understand, though, that $10,000 is sitting in our fund, and that number that you see in the fund balance, that 10,000's in it. It's not like it's hiding in Janelle's closet or something.
right?
Okay. So all those in favor of approving the quote from Midwest Sportswear, what was that? Midwest Sportswear?
Midwest Sportswear. We have good rapport. Many of our programs go through Midwest Sportswear. They're reliable. The owner goes out his way to come and help and do things.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 12.12, weight room discussion.
So you have a quote in front of you from Second Wind Sports that we discussed at a study session. believe it's for like 48,000?
It's a little bit less than that,
Less than that?
Yep.
39.
Oh, 39,000. So the 39,000 would encompass second wind coming in and physically moving our current equipment over, well, putting in a rubber floor for starters. Moving our equipment over to the cafeteria. Purchasing, I believe there's a bench of some type in there.
Bench press.
A bench press in there, an additional bench press. 8 treadmills, commercial grade treadmills, and maybe, was it 3 ellipticals?
A couple elliptical, four ellipticals.
4 ellipticals. So, I mean, that would certainly be something that you could talk about if you wanted to. You feel we don't need that many, that's fine. It was just, that's how many fit in there, in the layout, so that's what he put down. You may want to use that space for something else. So I guess at this point, if you wanted to consider going that route or doing some type of redesign, you know, whatever you want me to do, that's fine. The board had asked me at one point to look at the possibility of changing the grill cafeteria into a weight room, so this was our first look at it, I guess.
And then that design was by Second Wind Equipment, or was there any other input from any other staff in the school that maybe wanted to throw their 2 cents in?
No.
Mr. Thorson
Yeah, well,
was
Thorson
involved
did that.
in that.
Okay.
One good thing to note, Madam Chair, is we are going to be utilizing all that equipment we already have. And then the addition is something that we don't have anything of, the cardio equipment. You know, we have a lot of free weight, and we have a few like pulley system machines. In the space that's provided here with this change, potential change, is going to allow as I said earlier in the study session, multiple sports programs. They'll be behooved to join together and be in there at the same time, where as it stands right now, it's really one team kind of at a time utilizing that weight room. Where now we have the space and the equipment, that cardio equipment, it looks pretty darn, this is a high quality. So adults, staff would be inclined to use this.
So
I
there's
could sure use it.
there's the option there of, you know, of staff being able to use it, as well as we can look at how we can make that available to community members. And I think it relieves, I would think that it would be some kind of a fire code hazard for having that equipment out in the hallway like we currently do. So it would allow us to use that space that's currently not being used for anything, to be used for something beneficial to everybody.
So is there anything that has to be, nothing has to be changed in the ventilation part of that room when you start getting all them?
Sweaties?
Yeah.
No,
The window's open.
the windows do open.
Yeah.
Good.
They're currently in a submarine.
And it's even
Oh,
worse.
good.
It's way
I've
better.
been in there.
In there 10 minutes, barely working, there's a sweat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? I would like to make the motion to approve Second Wind Sports approval, or proposal for an enhanced weight room.
Second.
Motion by Lotiger, second by Sather. Any further discussion? I think we might have done that already. But all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 13.0, administrative report and information.
All right, I'll try to be brief. Everyone's getting restless. So we're still at 9:30. We've been here for a while. We had a couple leave, a couple come in. Oddly enough, one of them that came in recently over to the junior high is our first ESL student. Does anyone know what ESL is?
Mm-hmm.
English as a second language.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to navigate those waters and what we're required to do. We might be coming to your next meeting with, I don't even know. But she doesn't speak English, so
does that.
Is it Spanish? It's Spanish.
She's from Costa Rica.
That's great.
So, anyway. Go ahead. Finish
Um,
with that.
Yeah, the last school board meeting we were at, Quinn Muich had taken first place, I think, here at the district level and was moving on in the contest, and he took fourth place this last weekend. I think he even earned $500 for that win, along with the trophy. So congratulations to Quinn.
Big deal, pretty cool.
Last Monday, we had a day-long staff development day. We got all of our people up in the auditorium here, and we kind of went through, or I went through a lot of the updates that we've been talking about with collaboration. I went through the Alexandria thing, what that might look like. Jason came in, did some security, did a talk on technology security that enthralled everybody. I mean, what do you think? I mean, we were all still awake at the end of it. That was supposed to be funny. I mean, tech guys they don't give the greatest presentations. It was good though. So, and then the rest of our time we spent talking about student-centered learning, and that's a lot of the model that you see at Alexandria. We're trying to figure out how we're going to put that into play. Starting to have that discussion. We've been going through LSI training. That's one of the aspects of it for the past years. A couple things at the Franklin. I just wanted to congratulate Mrs. Arrow. Her last day was last Friday. She's been here for 42 and a half years, which is a long time. She'd actually spent a year in, God, where did she tell us? I think she was in Hibbing for a year before that, so I mean, she's been in education for a while. And it's not easy to replace 42 and a half years of experience, so.
She was there when I was there.
She was almost there longer than I've been alive. But not quite, I'm getting old. She was.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about Dean of Students. So at a previous meeting, we decided we were going to continue that for the rest of the year and then have a discussion. A Dean of Students is a teacher on special assignment, meaning it would have to be somebody from our staff. It is an appointed position. They are on the teacher schedule. So I did send a note out to all of our teachers asking if anyone wanted to be that person, and I didn't get any responses. Mrs. Young is a third grade teacher. Franklin agreed to do it for the rest of the year, which leaves a vacancy in third grade. So we'll have to post for a long-term sub for that position. Currently we have subs coming in.
And that posting that you did for the Dean of Students was from January 10th, I believe?
Yeah, it's just internal though, because that's not something we would hire externally.
And it's posted in all the buildings.
Yeah. So, Miss Priner is here, and unfortunately the only picture I had of her is her graduation picture. But she's actually now student teaching. She graduated from here 4 years ago. But she's student teaching with Mr. Roberts right now, so I wanted to welcome her. She'll be here for the rest of the year. Had to give a little shout out to Mike because he's now the oldest person in the Franklin. That's not true, but we like to make him think that way. And just put some fun photos in there from traveling around last week. Go ahead.
Today I walked through the media center and Mrs. Zika sent me some photos as well of the Wonder League robotics teams that are going on in the media center after school. And I just thought I'd throw a picture up there, and one team was going through their robotic, got to the end, and they jumped up and cheered. A lot of fourth graders and fifth graders involved with that activity. And then we had some fun in Gilbert. A couple weeks ago at a staff meeting, we spent about 20 minutes playing some badminton.
I didn't know about that.
And I think,
You're not allowed to have fun over
I
there.
think the winning team might even be represented at the school board meeting. They were, they're Mr. Leonard. So anyway, we had some fun and some team building.
At the senior high, I want to thank Mrs. Larson for organizing the blood drive. She does this annually, and for the student volunteers that also helped out. It was a successful blood drive for them. And then also this week, we want to give a shout out to all our paraprofessionals in the district for all that they do and making a difference in the kids and helping students, staff, and the school. Next week, we do have Snow Week, January 29th through February 2nd. So on Monday, we're having the School Spirit Day, and we'll have a Pet Fest 7th hour. On Tuesday, this is a new term that I learned this year, Grout Fit Day. It's where students will be wearing all gray. So you wear an all gray outfit, and it's called Grout Fit Day. And then third hour will be coordination at 10 a.m. in the gymnasium. Wednesday is Workout Wednesday, and we'll have a lip sync 5th hour in the new gym. Thursday is the junior high throwback Thursday, so they're supposed to dress like they did at the junior high. And the activity is the boyfriend versus the best friend 6th hour in the new gym. And then Friday, the day will be athlete versus mathlete day, and the activity will be the one-act play. Everybody will be able to see the one-act play 4th hour.
Thank you. Speaking of having fun, so normally on Tuesday in the Franklin, I have a staff meeting in the morning, and I tell them a bunch of boring stuff they don't want to know at 7 o'clock in the morning. So tomorrow we're going to try something different. We're actually exercising. Give that a try. Right, Karen?
Can't wait.
Huh? I don't know. Could be. I'll give everyone a paper box. Carry this to the 3rd floor. So that's our exercise. All right, that's all I got, Madam Chair. We're done.
All right, so I just make a motion, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Sather, second by Addy. We are adjourned.